The first weekend of the NHL postseason is in the books, and the Monday edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast is picking up all the pieces. Battle of Ontario, a tee-up of Habs caps, and of course, big-time bets. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Playoff beards are in full bloom. The postseason is heating up. And on the latest edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, we got to break down all the angles that are going out there around the world news. Welcome back inside the lab, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Shout out to the everydayers holding us down, making us your first listen every single day, even throughout the playoffs. Steele and I will be here every single day, bringing you all of the NHL news that you need, and we will continue to break down fantasy angles, top 10s, and every single draft prep angle that you need. Mr. Rodin, we are going to get to the Montreal Canadiens and Washington Capitals.
Yes,
we
sir.
will get to some bets for Monday night's juicy 4-game playoff board, but we have a lot to say about Game 1, Battle of Ontario. You were in the building. I'm going to turn it right over to you because there are a number of angles here. I actually have a couple of fantasy angles to throw your way as well. First and foremost, barn was rocking. The building looked alive. Tell me what it was like in the building on Game 1.
Barn was absolutely buzzing. Maple Leaf Square was fully packed. I mean, this is exactly what the playoff atmosphere the Maple Leafs needed going into this Battle of Ontario. It was rocking. It's 100 times better than what it was in the regular season. There were no suits there anymore. It's all the crazy diehard Leafs fans, and it was so intense. I can barely keep my voice up right now. I lost it last night. Look. It was a great game to go to, obviously, against the Ottawa Senators. They were nervous. They came out. They said that after the game. You could see it in the tension of the play in the first period.
Sure.
And they got their teeth rocked in. What an atmosphere it was. The barn was buzzing. Everyone around us was losing our minds. 6-2 pumping. Couldn't have asked for a more perfect Game 1.
There are a lot of different angles that we'll break down, but let me throw this to you thusly. The previous 6 home games for the Maple Leafs in the postseason were drop games. They looked like a confident bunch, and I understand that Anthony Stolarz on that first goal of the game was a little bit sloppy, a little bit lackadaisical, if you will. However, I want to start with Anthony Stolarz because there's a fantasy angle here for me to get to right off the bat. This player has very quietly put himself in the position of a top 10 fantasy goaltender in the game. And if he keeps going on these heaters, Steele, he's ended the year absolutely lights out. There are a lot of times you and I come on here and say, let's not get overly excited about postseason performance translating into fantasy season, regular season success. I'm going to say if Anthony Stolarz continues to do what he did in Game 1, and I know it's only Game 1, let's get that out of the way too, Steele. If the Ottawa Senators come back and they take Game 2 in Toronto, we're not talking about how big this Game 1 performance is, and we'll get to everything else. However, I just wanted to highlight that Anthony Stolarz was big when he was needed, and he kind of avoided a bit of an injury scare as well, weathered the storm, big shot differential, and made that big-time save. To me, is quickly and quietly playing himself. I'm not going to go crazy here, and he's not a top 5 goalie. We know all the top 5 fantasy options, but he is very quietly playing himself into the top 10 realm of fantasy goalies that I'm going to look at next season.
He really is. And when you look at his career throughout the National Hockey League, when he's played with Philadelphia for 7 games, or, you know, the Edmonton Oilers for 6, Anaheim here and there, Florida obviously as a backup. Even then, when he wasn't a career starter, he was still putting up some phenomenal stats, a .917 save percentage, a .926 save percentage with the Anaheim Ducks, who have been awful for years now. Obviously, the backup season in Florida where he put up a .925 save percentage and then follows that up with a .926. This guy's legit. This guy is for sure a top 10 goaltender, a top 10 fantasy hockey goaltender in the league right now. So I love that you're bringing him up because I wanted to talk about him too. And I got a few other points I want to highlight from this game. And mostly on the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then, of course, we can talk about the Ottawa Senators and what happened with them in game one. But I thought Stolarz was incredible, sensational in this game. And like you said, to me, I actually believe both goals, I didn't love them. 2 goals allowed on 33 shots. He put up a .939 save percentage.
Yes.
Let's keep in mind, too, this was his first ever career start in a playoff game. He played one game last year coming in relief for Sergei Bobrovsky, but he's never started one before. So that's big for Anthony Stolarz to get the confidence going. I really thought this game could have been 6-0, in all honesty. I didn't love those 2 goals from Batherson and Greg. I just thought it was terrible rebound control.
I agree.
Lackadaisical on his part in front of the net, just not quick enough and to capture that puck in his glove. So I really thought it could have been 6-0. Other than that, he played a perfect game. Even monster saves on Shane Pinto, who was on the who had a clear-cut shot in the slot there. Brady Tkachuk on the breakaway after that Batherson goal in the first period. So for me, Anthony Stolarz was probably the first star of this game, and that's saying something considering the top 6 pumped up some 9 points on them in game one. So I love Anthony Stolarz. I've been a huge fan of him. You know that I had him both on the Capitals competitively.
Yes, you did.
He was phenomenal for me all season. This is a guy that is a zero G caliber goaltender. He might go a little bit higher, obviously, now from what we've seen in back-to-back seasons, but I think Anthony Stolarz is an incredible netminder.
Very good angle that we'll talk about. Lots of top 10s, lots of breakdowns that Steele and I will have to get to over the coming weeks, sprinkled in with all of the postseason coverage that you need. And we're going to talk about goaltending in this Habs Cap series coming up a little later in the episode. And then, of course, tonight's big time betting board. And we will get to the rest of the series from across the league all week long. Couple more points here on the Leafs before we get to the Sens. 2 things for me, Steele. The Berube difference is something that's very evident right now at this time of year. The team came heavy with the body in response to, and credit due to Ottawa, they did throw their body around early. They had a very good start. They had pucks on net. Stolarz weathered the storm. The shot differential there for a while was heavy in Ottawa's favor, and they played great at 5-on-5 for most of the game. We know what the undoing in game one was. Everybody spoke about it, and I gave you that little bit of a tidbit off air. Travis Green saying that the Leafs did a big job, a great job embellishing calls, and that is where this game was won. Let's be clear. 3 goals for the Maple Leafs out of 6 chances on the power play. The Ottawa Senators cannot take penalties, but they also can't put themselves in the position for these referees to make these calls. Poor decision-making. What do you think is going to happen when you push a guy in from behind? Is it a soft push? Yes, it is. When you hit a guy on the numbers with 18 cross-checks in a row, a penalty is going to go your way. So I'm not here for it. Also, John Tavares takes it in the chops from Ridley Gregg. I think I'm going to spin around and hold my face too, Steele, regardless of how much of a warrior or not I am. Not here for the Travis Green BS show after the game. However, that's what a good coach does. So I can't fault Travis Green. You try and take some of the attention away from your players and you put it on yourself, or you place the blame around in other places. Can't hold him at fault at all. Good coaching job by Travis Green, but still not buying into it one bit. The Leafs were the better team. They made them pay on the power play. And I'll say this, I'm not going to get overly ahead of myself. I meant it. If Ottawa squares this up 2-2 on Tuesday night, Steele, they won't really be talking about what happened in game one. However, if the Leafs continue to make them pay on that power play, and this is my last point, and we can get to break, Mitch Marner, somebody pay this man his money, because already Mitch is proving that this might be a different year for this core 4 in Toronto.
Man, that was, again, the perfect game one from all facets of the ice. Again, besides the 2 goals Stolarz led up, it was the perfect game. And that's what I want to talk about after the break as well.
Perfect.
To, kind of going against what you said for your X factors or going into this series was Matthews needs to be the driving force. It doesn't need to be Matthews all the time. You've got so much depth scoring now. The defenseman came alive. Let's get to that after the break, as well as a few other points. And then we can talk about the Ottawa Senators and what they can do to enhance their chances of coming back in this series after a 1-0 loss in game 1.
As well as Habs Caps, full series breakdown,
Yes.
X factors, our best bets, and who wins in how many games. Big game tonight, Caps and Habs. We'll also get to our Monday night 4-game betting board. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. The Stanley Cup playoffs are here, my friends, and you've never been able to get to the live NHL playoff games. You can with Game Time. The intensity, the speed, the energy in the building, it's next level thanks to Game Time. Getting in the door is easier and more affordable than ever. Game Time is the fastest way to grab playoff tickets, even for these must-see matchups with the Battle of Ontario. Prices actually drop as puck drop gets closer. With last-minute deals, you can save up to 60%. Last-minute deals, the all-in pricing, panoramic seat views on your phone, everything you need with Game Time ticket coverage also keeps you protected. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app today, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day, Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning. Hit that subscribe button, the follow button, and leave that 5-star review. Flip and I appreciate all that love and support you show us. Like I said, Monday through Friday. Flip, I'm going to give you a preemptive apology here because I'm about to go on a 4 or 5 minute rant. I'll try to keep it as quick as possible. Before I get to the points that I want to highlight, I have to get this off my chest because this is what got everybody fired up in the barn, buzzing even more. I absolutely love Simon Benoit. The physicality and the energy he brings to the game, it gets the people going. Loved that hit on Dylan Cousins coming down the wing. It just set the tone right away from what the Maple Leafs needed. And I love what he does in the defensive zone as well. So I think he's a very underrated piece to this playoff team right now in the Maple Leafs. But when we were making our notes and everything, I had 3 things I wanted to highlight. Number 1, Anthony Stolarz, like we already talked about, and you had so many great points about his fantasy value going into next year. Number 2 is penalties, which we touched on. And number 3 is, again, the driving force didn't need to be Matthews. But let's start with penalties, like you said. The first penalty on Tim Stützle, it was soft. He let up. Even though it was hit from behind, it was on the numbers. He let up on him. He didn't go hard into the boards.
100%.
It was a soft call. No doubt about that. The cross-check on Matthews, legit penalty. The cross-check on OEL, debatable for sure. But look at this. Cross-check, cross-check, cross-check. All 5 out of 6 of the power plays were cross-checks. The other one was the slew foot from Drake Batherson. And other than that, it was all cross-checks. And like Brady Tkachuk and Batherson said after the game, they're just lazy with their sticks. The nerves got to them. They, they overwent with the physicality at some points, and it was just cross-check after cross-check. So the bottom line is the Senators were undisciplined while the Leafs kept their composure and played a very solid, clean game. Still physical, but very clean. And that's the playoff experience showing right there over the Ottawa Senators. That's not going to happen again. The nerves are out. Game 1's over. They got pumped. They know that. They're going to bounce back. This is still going to be a really good series. Could go long as well, 7 games. But I wanted to highlight the penalties in game 1 because that's the benefit and the advantage the Leafs had, obviously, in winning this game 6-2. So I got to highlight the penalties. Another point, number 3 for me, again, it didn't need to be Matthews to be the driving force in this game. It was almost the perfect Leafs game. Like I said, they got great goaltending. They got depth production from the bottom 6. The offense from the defenseman was popping off, and the top lines all showed up and took it to the Senators, combining for 9 points. And I think Matthews deserves a lot more credit for his playmaking ability because in the regular season, he was on pace for 55 assists this season. That's a career high for him. He's had 3 of the 4 last year's of over 45 plus assists. So I'm not going to put him in the same caliber as Mitch Marner, Kucherov, McDavid, and Kinnan, but he still has an incredible playmaking ability. So if he can still score 50, 55 goals with 45, 50 assists, he's a triple point player in the regular season. He's a superstar in this league. He's a difference maker, and that's what we saw. That outlet pass to Mitch Marner on the breakaway, Oh my
Yes.
goodness, that was
Yes.
buttery. That
Yep.
was smooth. Austin Matthews, the captain, leading by example as well. I wanted to highlight all of those points.
I love that.
Over to you, my friend. Sorry for that long rant there, but I had to get it out because it's been on my mind since game one started.
No apologies needed. Keep that in your back pocket for next season because Austin Matthews' playmaking ability is something that has definitely rounded into form with the rest of his all-around game. And that's going to mean good things for some of these peripheral pieces like Matty Nyes, like for now, Max Domi, who's up in that top 6. So don't forget about all of these angles that you see play out in the postseason. You might be thinking this is my time to lay off the gas on the preparation, on watching hockey. When I was at Hockey Night in Canada, Steele, all the guys who have been there for years, the best way to know the game, fantasy or otherwise, it's not rocket science. Watch as much hockey as you possibly can. And right now, you're seeing best on best. So it's a perfect time to dive in and learn a little bit more. Let's wrap up with the Sens. Let's get to the Habs. Let's get to the Caps. And we'll quickly get to tonight's bets. I just wanted to say that the Sens were actually really good at 5-on-5.
Yes,
and
they
if
were.
Stolarz doesn't make a couple of, how about that big save on the Brady Tkachuk breakaway? This game definitely goes a little bit differently. Do I still tip the cap to the Leafs because I think they were ready to go? Yes, I do. But 52 combined penalty minutes, a bit things getting out of control at the end. The refs really did botch this one in terms of letting it get out of control, letting the penalties kind of overplay and end of the game there. However, it didn't go this Ottawa Senators way, but this is the postseason. And if it doesn't go your way, too bad. You got to play against it, and you got to be the better team at the end of the day. And when Linus Ullmark lets in 6 goals on 24 shots and is really struggling with rebound control and is fighting to see through the seam to see these pucks, sure, some of that's on the blue liners, but he is going to have to be better. Bottom line, we can put away all these other narratives, Steele, and shelve them. If Linus Ullmark and the top 4 are going for the Leafs and he can't figure it out, this is going to be a very quick series. And I'm not just saying that because I want it to be. That's just 1 + 1 = 2. And in my opinion, after that performance, do I expect him to be better? 100%. But there was a question posed to Travis Green after the game. I don't know if you saw it. The elephant in the room is your goaltending. Are you concerned? He came back with a great answer, but you and I aren't the only ones throwing it out there. Linus Ullmark has to be better.
Has to be better for sure, and this team will be better. If they stay out of the box, if they stay disciplined, there's no question this is going to be an incredible series because when you look at the 3 power play goals, and I have it up here right now, all 3 power play goals came within the first 10 seconds of the man advantage. So if they stay out of the box, that doesn't happen because, so what you just said, the 5-on-5 game arguably was in favor of the Ottawa Senators at most times in the game. However, there's also this stat right here that I have. Linus Ullmark has now allowed 4 goals or more in 6 of his 10 career playoff starts. He has not performed well in the playoffs. That's a big elephant in the room. So as much as he is a Vezina Trophy candidate or winner, and I really do like Linus Ullmark.
Yes, you do.
This is not the same team Ullmark played for with the Boston Bruins. This is not the same defensive core in front of him with the Ottawa Senators. And I think Jake Sanderson has taken a huge step in his development and his career and fantasy value. I think we're going to be talking about him a lot next year.
For sure.
Here's my last point before we get to break.
Yep.
Brady Tkachuk looked like a shell of himself. Now, I don't know if there's still a nagging injury or maybe it was just getting caught up in the nerves.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little bit of both, but he didn't look like himself out there last night. And obviously going into the opponent rival's barn and you got Brady sucks chance going at you left, right, and center all game long. Yeah, it's going to get to you a little bit. Even if he says it didn't, it's what it is, what it is. He doesn't care. It gets to them. It gets to everybody out there for sure.
Yes.
So I wanted to say that he didn't look like himself. I expect him to be a lot better in game 2 and to come out with a ferocious tenacity. Captain of the Ottawa Senators needs to go and get his team going right now, heading into game 2. The Ottawa Senators, if they stay disciplined, this is a long series.
I totally agree with you, Steele. There is so much left to go. Yes, we're fired up. Yes, you like to see the big 4 go because there's 9 points combined. That was more points, I believe, than they all had combined the entirety of the 7-game series of the Boston Bruins. It's something close like that. So that is how we've been waiting, Steele.
It's nice to have all 4 of them in the lineup at once, though.
Agonizingly waiting patiently for this team. We know they've been trying to build on these 4 guys and have them all go at once. And look at what happens when they go. They're hard to deal with. We won't be the rest of the episode where we break down Caps Habs. Let's get to it, my friend, because this, I think, is going to be a closer series than a lot of people are giving the Montreal Canadiens credit for.
Well, we'll talk about that after the break. Big time bets as well for Monday at the end of the episode. This episode is also brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Amazon Fire TV. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed, Flip's favorite game. As easily as you stream your favorite shows, it's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube, 3rd Gen. And once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Please continue to hit that subscribe button. Share with your friends and family out there. We really do appreciate all that love and support, especially at this point in the season. We know not fantasy hockey all the time here, but we're getting to it as well. We keep the angles fantasy hockey wise as much as we possibly can, and we're going to do that with this Capitals Canadiens preview playoff matchup. Our last preview and predictions for the first round series of the National Hockey League playoffs. Over to you, my friend. Obviously, you just said that this is going to be a very close series. I am going to disagree with you on this. Sorry, before I throw it over to you, I just want to give the preseason context. The season series 2-0-1 in favor of the Capitals. Playoff history. The most recent history was in 2009-2010 season, was the only series between these two teams, and the Canadiens 1-7. So now over to you, my friend. You believe this is going to be a close one? Where are you leaning?
I did say closer than people expect. I did not say all the way close, all the way through, although I'm copping out because I guess I just want to say this. Logan Thompson's injury headed down the stretch. It was just revealed this afternoon that he is going to be the game 1 starter. So he's in there Monday night. You know, the head coach Carberry this year for the Washington Capitals deserves a lot of credit. And part of that reason is getting what he has got out of Logan Thompson. 31-6-6. Logan Thompson, speaking of 0G valuable goaltenders, he's played his way into the top 10 as well, I would say, Steele, as a very reliable option. That's maybe one of those angles we can discuss in more detail. Here's what I want to say. We know this Montreal Canadiens team is a lot different than the one a few seasons ago that went on a run and went all the way to the Stanley Cup and took the Vegas Golden Knights, I believe, to 5 or 6 games. That's not the same team, but that's not to say that this can't happen with this team. And for me, right away, the strength of this Canadiens team, they're a young, confident group. They bring in Demidov and the confidence goes up even a little bit more. Is he still a liability at the defensive end? Has he only played a few minutes in the NHL? 100%. Am I going to be one of those Montreal Canadiens fans that thinks this kid is going to be a difference maker in this series? No, but he can be, and he has all of the offensive ability to throw a wrinkle at the Washington Capitals that maybe is hard for them to deal with, and they're playing with house money. All the pressure here is squarely on the Washington Capitals. And if you take Ovechkin away for a second, Steele, you take away this magical season that has been great for a Caps team that was a mess at this time last year. I just don't know if the swagger and the shine is there to the point where I'm as confident as everyone else is. So I'll spit it out. My X factor for the Montreal Canadiens, if they have any shot at winning this, it's a cop-out answer, but it has to be Sam Montembeault. He is going to have to steal at least a game or two. If they shut down Alex Ovechkin, big if, but if they do that and he is not heard from in this series, this Montreal Canadiens team has a good shot at least pushing it to a 6 or 7 game series. I still have the Caps taking this one in 7, but I like the Montreal Canadiens to give them a run for their money. Maybe Caps in 6, but I'm going to stick with Caps in 7, but they move on in this one.
I mean, that's a lot of ifs right there. If Ovechkin isn't in the lineup, if Demidov makes a difference, it's a lot of ifs for me, but I agree with you that this is a very young, confident team right now in Montreal. Very hot going into the postseason, obviously
100%.
Waiting until Monday to play. They're probably just, they're on their heels right now. They're at the edge of their seats wanting to play this matchup already. For me, look, we both didn't expect the Washington Capitals to be atop of the Metropolitan. I don't believe we expected even the Montreal Canadiens to be a playoff team this season as well, like most people out there. So both teams overachieved in some sort of fashion this year. Regardless of that, they're both in the playoffs, and they both got to the spot that they're in because of how they played this year. So whether you want to say, not you, just in general, whether you want to say, Logan Thompson just had an overachieving year. He had an incredible season. The guys they brought in, Dubois, Mangiapane, Dylan Strome being a point per game player, all of that too, even with Ovechkin in the lineup, it's the Capitals all the way. I really don't think there's a lot of pressure on this team right now. I think it's going to be a fun series to watch, but they got there themselves this season. They did this for themselves and put themselves in this position to be the top team in the Metropolitan Division. The Capitals have the better ranked power play, the better ranked penalty kill over the Canadiens, who are 21st on the power play and 9th on the penalty kill. For me, my X factor for the Montreal Canadiens, I got 2. It's Lane Hudson and it's Juraj Slafkovsky. I'm going to talk about Tom Wilson as an X factor for the Capitals, but Juraj Slafkovsky needs to be exactly what Tom Wilson is for the Washington Capitals. He's a big guy, 20 years old, 6'3", 225 pounds. He loves to throw his weight around. 194 hits this season, 133 shots, 62 blocks. He's exactly the typical type of player that Tom Wilson is for the Capitals. That's number 1. Number 2, Lane Hudson. Lane Hudson is going to have some difficulty. Like, he's going to have some protection from Matheson and Savard and everybody, but Lane Hudson at 5'9", 162 pounds, he could get tossed around quite easily in the defensive zone. He also needs to make an impact to the same degree that John Carlson or Jacob Chikrin is going to make in this postseason series as well. So those are my 2 guys for the Montreal Canadiens. Over to the Washington Capitals, X factor, it's got to be Tom Wilson. He's had a career year, 30-plus goals, 60-plus points. Again, throws his weight around. Could you imagine Lane Hudson going in his own zone to retrieve a puck, and he hears Tom Wilson barking at him behind him? Yeah, I'm coming, bud. I'm coming. Look, Tom Wilson is an X factor. I think he's going to be a huge difference maker in this one.
I perhaps might be reading into the underdog ability of the Montreal Canadiens to make some noise, and I know I said what I said about the team being different from the Vegas Golden Knights. What's also interesting that season anyway, what's also interesting is back in 2010, and again, totally not comparative because none of these players were there aside from Alexander Ovechkin, the Caps were heavy favorites, the first seed. The Montreal Canadiens went into that barn and they took them out and they went on that magical run. And maybe I'm just letting all the nostalgia get to me. However, I guess what I want to leave it at with is Nick Suzuki's a difference maker.
Yes,
the Washington Capitals do not have an all-around player of that magnitude, and I know Nick Suzuki doesn't have a ton of postseason experience, but to me, he also has to be a major X factor for this team. And when I look at the Washington Capitals, Steele, and where I think I'm probably shooting myself in the foot with the Habs take, and I'm going to change my pick after doing some of this dive, I'm going to Caps in 6. I had Caps in 7. I like Caps in 6 because I really like, as one of my favorite bets in this series, this to go over 5.5 right now on FanDuel. To have this series go 6 or 7, you're getting really good odds at -140. I love the total games in this series over 5.5. Let me leave it at this. The Washington Capitals were second in the NHL this season with 286 goals scored. Only the Tampa Bay Lightning had more. If they have that kind of success, the Montreal Canadiens simply don't have the firepower to replicate that kind of offensive output unless all those ifs that I said come to fruition in a very big way. That's a lot of risk. It's a lot of ho-hum, what's going to happen in this series. I'll go Caps in 6, but I love Dylan Strome as an X factor for the Caps. You talked about this player all year, career year, 82 points, played really well with Ovi when he was in there, and everyone is going to look at Ovi to get this done. Jacob Chikrin on the back end, who had a career year as well. But how about Dylan Strome's ability to dish that puck around? 53 assists, also a career high. If that offense wants to roll in the nature that it did in the regular season, I'm going to look squarely at their number one center in Dylan Strome for a big opportunity here.
And I'm going to talk about Strome some more right now as well. My best bet of this series, Dylan Strome, series point leader. Like you said, he's been a point per game player, 82 points in 82 games this year, 53 assists. He's been an incredible playmaker for the guys around him.
Wow, we didn't even plan that.
Did not plan that whatsoever. I'm taking it a step further though. My prediction, I'm going Capitals in 5. I think the Montreal Canadiens will win 1 at home when they get there for games 3 and 4. But I got Capitals in 5. I just don't see them losing this one. Honestly, I kind of wanted to go with the sweep, but I had to give a lot more respect to guys like Suzuki, Caulfield, and even Montembeault, who I've liked a lot at times this season.
I really appreciate that angle. Let's see what happens Monday night and quickly rapid fire bets. If you're okay with it, Steele. Colorado, look, I gave that prediction about Dallas before I knew about Jason Robertson, and I'm not counting out the Dallas Stars yet, but you were right. They're in trouble. And across the board, look, Jason Robertson's been red hot since the Four Nations, and him going down in that nature in the final game of the regular season
sucks.
That could be a death blow for this Dallas Stars team. Cale Makar, anytime assist. That's my lock of the night. And then I've got 2 picks, all player props tonight, Steele. The Edmonton Oilers are in tough going into LA, but guess what? The one thing that they do still have going for them, it's Connor McDavid. He had 42 points in 25 postseason games last year. He will be heard from in this series. Hit me with Connor McDavid 2+ points in game 1. If there's any shot that the Oilers take this one, they need McDavid to be 2 or 3 or 4 points basically every single night. So hit me with McJesus 2+ points. And I really like what I saw from Kyle Connor in game 1. Definitely the most underrated shooter in the game today, fantasy or otherwise. Kyle Connor, anytime goal for the Winnipeg Jets in game 2 against the St. Louis Blues.
Loving the player props here. My first pick, Capitals on the money line, -182 at home. Every single home team has won so far except for the Stars, and we knew what was going on in that one.
True.
That leads me to my second pick, Avalanche on the money line, -146. If they win this game, there's a very good chance they sweep the Dallas Stars. That's how high I am on this Colorado Avalanche team. They were going into the postseason on a 7-game lose streak. They've lost 8 times in a row in game 1s in the postseason. Now they've been struggling, especially if Heiskanen and Robertson aren't in there. Capitals money line, Avalanche money line, finishing it off. Kings money line at -125. While the Kings don't have the best players in this series, they have the better team. They don't have they don't have Connor McDavid. They don't have Leon Draisaitl, but the overall team effort they play with is far better than what the Edmonton Oilers are doing right now. Again, a lot of that goes into the lack of faith in Stuart Skinner. So those are my 3 picks. Capitals, Avalanche, Kings on the money line, lock of the night, Capitals over the Canadiens.
3 money line picks, 3 player prop picks, a little bit of a smorgasbord for y'all degenerates out there. Keep it tapped to the pod, breakdowns, top 10 fantasy angles, news, and of course, bets all week long, all the way till that cup gets lifted.
Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night, until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. From your boys here, Flip, Livingstone, and Steele Rodin, we wish you good luck with your bets tonight, and we shall see you back here again on Wednesday.
Peace.